Okay, so my map is called City-Pocalypse, and it's taking place in an urban city in a post-apocalyptic world. Um, yeah, so the player starts off in this pizza shop. Here's some textures that represent the kitchen, since the player starts off in the back area. And then they could come back here for the first secret area. The player hits the button, and then they walk through this little hallway down to this little grenade launcher, which kind of is going to set the tone for the type of weapon that the player is going to use in the whole game. And then these are all really just going to be basic objectives that the player has to do in really like the first area. So for instance, right here, the player needs a silver key and that they can't advance without the silver key. So then they grab it and then they go through the door and then they find some rockets for their ammo. The player enters in a little like dining table area. There's some booths, tables. There's the first enemy that the player could shoot at, and then they press the button, and then they walk up the stairs over to the next area. The first enemy encounter will be in this little room. The player goes to the door, they trigger it, and then they enter through, and then they fight this first enemy. And then they come here, they pass a trigger area that's right here, and then that triggers this zombie. And then you need some sort of rocket launcher in order to destroy the zombie, or else they'll come back to life. And then here's some platforming right here. Say if the player misses it, then they drop below, and then they will have to fight this one creature. And then once they defeat the creature, there's this secret area that the player cannot access from the other end of the door. They press the button, and then this is a secret door that opens up, and then the player gets let out. So then you have like some more tries. And then the player reaches this roof of another building, so they get out of the little pizza shop, and then they go into this lift. This is a train that I made. It has two path corners, one right here and then one right there. And then these are also some types of architecture that I created. This is this lift brings you down to this like back alleyway. There's like a broken phone booth. There's some windows. Obviously, there was those zombies that were on the balconies. Yeah, and then I added some lights over to some of these signs to make it like pop out more. The player reaches this area, they get ammo, and then they reach like a trigger point to where they have to defeat these two dogs. And then they go out to this other alleyway. There's like some different shops. There's some different like flicker settings for the lights in order to give it some like type of like life or like aesthetic. There's also some more windows. These buildings have different textures and different colors to represent the different buildings that they are. There's some more health kits, ammo, and then the player has the chance to enter in through these different doors. And then here, there's just some bubbles and some rockets. Here, there's an enemy that's waiting. And then this door, there's a health kit. And then once the player passes this little area right here of these boulders, then this will trigger a secret door that unlocks the first really tough enemy, which is the marksman. Some more doors. That's an explosive barrel. It's kind of some foreshadowing right here because you will need to use the exploding barrel to defeat the final boss. if you don't have like a special like effect on you. These little like back alleyways lead to some areas that have health packs, could have keys, and then this leads you over to this little butcher shop. There's some textures that represent that. The player initially sees that there's ammo for a brand new weapon right here. So then that sort of gives the player a clue into where, or like into thinking that they're going to find a brand new weapon soon. And then they do, right behind this little shelf. And then the player goes through this little back alleyway. They find a gold key that they will eventually need. And then they pass through this corner over here, and then they reach over to this hotel area. The player needed that gold key in order to go through this door. So then they enter through like a very old school hotel, somewhat of like a motel. There's some health packs. This is like a little room. There's some more of these fishes and like this like little bathtub area. And then in this like little kitchen area, there was these zombies you could then shoot. Yeah, and then the player goes out of the hotel. They reach this huge like street. It has some like city lamps, has some like flickering to represent the type of theme that it is. And then once the player passes this little trigger point entry, then these enemies come out. And then the player defeats them. These are little secret doors that lead to some different places. This one has some rockets. And then this door, this is a different color to represent something different. That there's going to be something different behind this door. And then this opens up like a little secret entranceway. This already gives some different light textures to represent the player going into like a different setting, which they will be going into this different lab. As soon as the door opens to the lab, then there's an enemy waiting to attack them. So then now the player is in this little lab, close to the end of the game. There's some ammo, and then some more exploding barrels. This gives the player the chance to defeat this enemy. That is also some more foreshadowing for the final boss. There's some ammo right here. Kind of leads this player over to this area. And then this is sort of like a special effect that this has on the player. It gives them some more power. And then the player passes through this door. Once the player reaches a certain area, like a trigger area right now, then the player can't go back to that door. And then they trigger this enemy. And then you could defeat it. And then after like a few more seconds, then this special effect will then wear off. And then this final last area actually that the enemy or that the final battle was in, this is in like a dock and then just like an aqueduct like area. And then this is really supposed to represent like the final end of the level. Say if the player doesn't check that area with a special effect, then they still have the chance to beat this final boss guy with these exploding barrels that we foreshadowed in the beginning of the level. There was some ammo, some health packs that I picked up. There's some cover. Once the player is behind the cover, then the lightning that this shambler shoots at you, they really can't attack you. Yeah, so then once the player defeats them, there's this sign that says exit. It's sort of just like a molten lava place, just to really let the player know that this is something different. And so then they enter in, and then boom, that's the end of the level. And then yeah, and then that's it. And then that's my level, and then it just brings you over to the like main menu screen, and that's it.